Right now, while you're sitting here watching this, your brain is doing something it does only one other time during the day, while you sleep. It's flushing out toxic proteins, the same proteins linked to Alzheimer's disease. If you're sleeping poorly, that flush isn't happening the way it's supposed to. But that's not the only thing that's being affected while you sleep. Your hormones, your muscle recovery, your mental clarity is all being affected based on how you slept the night before. And if you're anything like me, you drastically underestimate just how big of an impact this actually has on your life. Which is why I'm making this video, to basically go over the biology of what's happening when you're sleeping, what's causing poor sleep, and what research says on how to fix it. A lot of people are willing to sacrifice good quality sleep to get whatever they need to get done. The issue is that your body doesn't understand that cycle of you staying up grinding for whatever it is you're trying to grind for. Your body has a set schedule that it needs to stick to truly be healthy and give you good quality sleep. Once I started doing more research on sleep and truly understanding the importance of it, I started treating it as one of my most important things that I do throughout the day. Because having a good nighttime routine, being able to get your good quality sleep, is gonna set you up for success the next day. If you don't have that, you're setting yourself up for failure over and over again. Your brain produces waste every single hour you're awake. If it's from thoughts, decision making, complex problems that you're trying to solve, all of these things are producing waste inside your brain. This is known as metabolic byproducts, one of which is called amyloid beta. And if you've heard that name before, it's most likely linked to discussions around Alzheimer's disease. The good news is that your brain has a way to get rid of all this waste, and it's called the glymphatic system. Essentially what happens is cerebrospinal fluid is flushed into your brain, moving all the waste from your brain tissue into your bloodstream where it's then eliminated. This system is drastically more active while you're sleeping versus awake. The channels that allow the fluid to go through them are 60% more open when you're asleep versus when you're awake. A 2026 study in Nature Communications, which was a randomized crossover trial with 39 people, found that normal sleep measurably increased the overnight clearance of amyloid beta and tau compared to sleep deprivation. In the sleep-deprived group, clearance was impaired. So the jokes about people sleeping when they're dead has some truth to it, because chronically bad sleep over time does increase the likelihood of early onset death, according to research. Let's discuss what happens to your thinking when you have poor sleep. Short term, it's cognitive function that will be affected. Your brain organizes itself into functional networks, regions that work together for specific tasks. For example, there's attention, memory, decision making, which are all separate, but they're used together when needed. Sleep deprivation actually breaks that separation that your brain has put together. fMRI studies show that under sleep loss or sleep deprivation, there's an excessive integration across all the brain functions. Networks that should be operating independently of each other start interfering with each other. The result is a measurable drop in attention, working memory, and execution function. The list can go on and on of everything that's affected from sleep deprivation, such as decision making, focus, emotional control. All of those things will have a negative impact when you have poor sleep. And here's something else that some people have probably told you before, but most people don't actually take seriously. Sleep deprivation also impairs you in a way that is also similar to the effects of alcohol. Just like with alcohol, a lot of people think they're way more capable of doing things such as driving, which please do not drink and drive ever. But people's confidence levels go much higher when they're intoxicated with alcohol, which allows them to go do these things. It's the same thing with sleep as well, which is why there's a rule that if you're feeling tired while driving, you should pull over, because the effects that you're experiencing are very similar to when you're impaired by alcohol. There's a huge misconception that you build muscle in the gym itself. This just isn't actually true. What's happening is you're getting the stimulus in the gym that sends a signal to your brain that you are going to be trying to build the muscle. But the actual building of the muscle is when you're actually recovering from the workout, specifically when you're asleep. During N3, slow wave sleep, which is also many people call deep sleep, this is where your pituitary gland is releasing a surge of growth hormone that's used to build that muscle. Testosterone also typically does peak during these sleep cycles, specifically during the REM sleep cycle. A review on sleep and athletic performance found that even one night of inadequate sleep can cut your testosterone levels by close to 25%. That is just one night of bad sleep can have a huge impact on your testosterone levels. You could be training twice a day, eating tons of protein, hitting your goals in the gym, outside the gym, but if your sleep is poor, it's gonna have such a negative impact that a lot of the work you're doing is honestly just trying to play catch up with all the bad sleep you're experiencing. Here's another thing about the REM cycle. This is the time when your nervous system consolidates motor learning. So if you're learning a different way to lift a weight, if you're learning to play the guitar, the piano, this is the most important time for your central nervous system to be able to start ingraining these new methods that you're trying to teach your body to do. So when you're missing this cycle, you're actually allowing your body to not do the thing that you spent the previous day trying to do. Everything that we've talked about up until now runs on one system. It's called the circadian rhythm. This is your internal biological clock that runs about 24 hours every single day that signals when you're hungry, when you're sleepy, when you should wake up. All of that is dictated on the circadian rhythm. The way this clock works is that it starts when you wake up. When you open your eyes, you're getting a ton of light, hopefully natural sunlight getting in, which signals to your body, hey, it's time to wake up, we have to start our day. This is done because morning sunlight has blue light that's being emitted into your eyes, which sends a signal to a part of your hypothalamus called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, also known as the SCN. This tells your pineal gland to stop making melatonin and to spike yourself with cortisol. This is not a bad cortisol spike. You need this spike to set your circadian rhythm for the rest of the day. Throughout the day, after that initial spike of cortisol, there's a slow decline throughout the day towards later at night, where once it meets a certain threshold, your body's gonna start producing melatonin, which is gonna make you start feeling sleepy and getting ready to go to bed. Towards the end of that drop, where melatonin should be starting to be produced, most people are sitting in bed with their phones out or with overhead lights shining into their eyes, which is basically sending the signal that, hey, it's still daytime, I'm still doing things, I'm not ready to go to bed yet. So this creates a cycle where you're falling asleep much later in the night than what you should be doing, and you're waking up way more tired than how you should be, which is why so many people, the first thing they're doing is reaching for caffeine to help supplement that lack of sleep. But if you guys watched my previous video on energy drinks, you'll know that caffeine isn't actually giving you energy. It's just suppressing those molecules in your brain that are signaling that you're tired. Shift work studies show that your clock will actually adapt to a messed up sleep schedule in about 3 days' time. It doesn't care if it's good for you or bad for you. It could take about 3 days to really put in a habit of when you're waking up and going to bed. So what can we do to fix this issue if it's such a concern that most people are struggling with? The answer is actually pretty simple, and how you're starting your morning is actually going to dictate how you go to bed later at night. So what should you do? First thing in the morning, about 30 to 60 minutes after your natural wake time, you're gonna want to go outside and get sunlight into your eyes. Obviously, please do not look directly at the sun. This will damage your eyes. Even if it's cloudy out or if you can't see the sun, you're still getting an enormous amount of sunlight going through your retinas, which is going to help set your circadian rhythm for the rest of the day. The reason you don't want to be using artificial light to try to fix this and set your circadian rhythm up that way is that sunlight is about 10,000 to 20,000 lux, whereas indoor lights or any other lights that you have during the day typically are only about a few hundred lux. So we talked about what helps set up your day with your circadian rhythm by getting sunlight, but what are some things that people typically do at night that's actually secretly destroying their sleep, even if it doesn't feel that way when they're in the moment? A lot of people, they get off of work, they like to go grab a beer, sip it, they say, oh, it helps me feel sleepy, ready for bed, a way to wind down. But when it comes to sleep, alcohol doesn't help you sleep, it sedates you, which is very different than actual sleep. Alcohol is a central nervous system depressant, which means it can help you pass out, but it's going to have a huge negative impact on your actual sleep quality and the functions that your body needs to do in order to properly sleep. Specifically, it's suppressing REM sleep. A 2024 systemic review and meta-analysis across 27 studies found a dose-response relationship. The more alcohol you drink, the more the REM sleep cycle is suppressed, which means the worse the sleep architecture gets. And the disruption isn't from excessive drinking to the point where you're drunk. It could be something as low as 1 to 2 drinks. That's it. So here's what a typical sleep cycle could look like if you do choose to consume alcohol before heading to bed. For the first half of the night, you're gonna be heavily suppressed and you're not gonna be getting those cleansing systems that your body is so used to doing when you don't have alcohol and you're sleeping normally. So this typically explains why some people have hangovers after a night of drinking. It's because their sleep isn't actually sleep. They're essentially just passed out for about 8 hours straight, and all that mental clarity that you typically would have on a good night's sleep doesn't come. Circling back to when I discussed how you get a surge of growth hormone when you are sleeping, that doesn't happen when you have alcohol in your sleep. Also, that central nervous system motor learning skill set that your brain is trying to help develop is also affected. Now, alcohol isn't the only thing that's affecting it. Like I mentioned earlier, screens play a huge role in how you fall asleep and the quality of your sleep. Phones are emitting blue light. It is basically signaling to your brain, hey, it's daytime, let's get up, let's party, let's do whatever you normally do during the day. This is not a good thing to have before bed. The other thing that is affecting people's sleep cycle is an inconsistent cycle. What most people typically do is they'll wake up whatever hours they need to do their 9 to 5, whatever your work schedule is during the week. And then those weekends, they like to sleep in, like to catch up on sleep. But does this actually work? The answer is no. You cannot catch up on lack of sleep, which is why having a consistent sleep schedule is so important. This actually has a name, which is called social jet lag, which basically means during those 5 days you are working, you're typically able to go to bed at a reasonable hour. But if you do enjoy going out, hanging out with friends, watching movies, doing anything on the weekends, you're probably going to stay up later than you normally would. So ideally, what you should be doing is having a set wake up time every single day. Because like I said, our circadian rhythm is a 24-hour biological clock. It cannot determine whether it's Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, Friday. It doesn't care what day of the week it is, because your brain is going to be doing the same function every single night. So have a consistent wake up cycle and a consistent bedtime cycle. You get to choose what time you wake up and go to bed every single day to an extent. So you need to make sure that it works for your lifestyle and make sure you truly stick with it if you do want to see improvements on your sleep. Another thing that can be affecting your sleep cycle is caffeine. Like I mentioned in my video before about energy drinks, caffeine plays a significant role in your circadian rhythm, because if you're drinking it too late in the day, it will suppress your sleep signals and you will get poor sleep. Caffeine should be consumed earlier in the day, maybe about 90 minutes after waking. And because it has a half-life of about 6 hours, you want to cut it off soon enough so that it is out of your system when you're ready to go to bed. So here's a quick recap again of everything you should be doing to help maximize your sleep. Firstly, you need to have a set wake up time. Everything else doesn't matter what you're doing if you don't have this. So make sure you pick a time that works best for you and stick with it. The second thing is when you do wake up, try to get sunlight within the first 30 to 60 minutes of your day. If you live in an area or you have a routine where you cannot get sunlight physically because of how early you have to wake up or because of the time of the year, you can look into getting a UV light that can simulate the actual light that's produced by the sun, but the sunlight is much more recommended. Third thing is don't have alcohol before sleep. I'm a proponent where there should be no alcohol just because of all the other effects it can have on your body. But again, you are your own person. You can choose to drink alcohol if you wish to. Just know what the effects are on your sleep. So if you are trying to improve that sleep, maybe consider cutting back on alcohol. Another thing you should also be trying to optimize for is having a cooler room, anywhere between 65, 68 degrees, just rough ballpark. Also having the room dark, so blackout curtains. You can get a face mask. Next, make sure you stay off of electronics before bed, specifically screen electronics, okay? So if you're listening to something, it's not necessarily as bad, but you don't want to have that blue light emitting into your eyes before bed. Next, we got caffeine. Remember, half-life is about 6 hours. Figure out what time you're going to try to go to bed and try to cut it off well before that bedtime does come. Another hack you can try to use to try to help with your circadian rhythm is exercise earlier in the day compared to later in the day. The reason for this is that intense exercise closer to bed can actually raise your core temperature and can mess with falling asleep. Most of the things I discussed typically don't cost money, and most people can implement relatively easily in your life. You don't have to do everything to necessarily increase your sleep quality, but it is important to try to really consider everything I discussed and really factor it into your lifestyle and determine whether the trade-off is actually worth it. If any of you have been following along my journey, you'll know that I'm about 3 to 4 months, depending on when this video goes up, into my 180 and 180, which is essentially turning my life around in 180 days. The most recent thing that I've been adding is sleep quality, which is why I wanted to make this video, to help others that were just in a situation like me, where you weren't well informed about sleep, or if you were, you didn't truly understand the whole impact that it does have on your life. There's a meme going around where I'm acting like a performative male, which I think is pretty funny, but all the things I am doing, such as no phones before bed, plugging my ears before bed, making sure my room is nice and cold before bed, waking up, getting some morning sunlight, all these things are, in a sense, performative, but they are also a huge impact on my overall health. I've been doing these things well before I actually started documenting them online and showing you guys what I was actually doing. You guys can train as much as you want, eat as clean as you want, do all these things during the day. But again, if your sleep is messed up, you are not giving yourself enough recovery to truly see an ROI on all that effort you're putting in. Your habits now dictate who you will become the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, the rest of your life. So if you're young, it is very important that you really prioritize these things because it will pay dividends in the long run. I'm 24 right now, and I wish I knew these things when I was in high school. Had I known these things, I would be in a very different trajectory in life versus where I'm at right now. If you're older than me, this still does greatly apply to you. And just because you have the habit of sleeping bad doesn't mean you can't fix it. Take step by step. Start very small. Just choose something, anything that I went over, and just start there. Make it very simple, do it daily, and you're gonna slowly start building the habit of getting better sleep. Over time, you're gonna get better at it, and you're gonna see the effects. I promise you, you will. So if you guys are into hustle culture or whatever the lifestyle that you guys have, please stop trading your sleep for that growth that you think you're going to be getting, because maybe in the short term it is working, but in the long term you will get way farther in life by really dialing in your sleep. All the research for this video is linked below, so if you guys do want to go check out that stuff for yourself, feel free. If you guys want to follow my 180 and 180 journey, I post daily videos on Instagram and TikTok, djp.unfinished for both of them. Go ahead, check it out. Don't feel obligated to if you don't want to. So if you're currently watching this video while in bed trying to fall asleep, turn your phone off, put it on the other side of the room, and go to bed.